Chapter 49 of Barnaby Rudge, A Tale of the Riots of '80. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recorded by Mill Nicholson. Barnaby Rudge, A Tale of the Riots of '80, by Charles Dickens. Chapter 49. The mob had been divided from its first assemblage into 4 divisions: the London, the Westminster, the Southwark, and the Scotch. Each of these divisions being subdivided into various bodies, and these bodies being drawn up in various forms and figures, the general arrangement was, except to the few chiefs and leaders, as unintelligible as the plan of a great battle to the meanest soldier in the field. It was not without its method, however, for, in a very short space of time after being put in motion, the crowd had resolved itself into 3 great parties, and were prepared, as had been arranged, to cross the river by different bridges, and make for the House of Commons in separate detachments. At the head of that division which had Westminster Bridge for its approach to the scene of action, Lord George Gordon took his post, with Gashford at his right hand, and sundry ruffians of most unpromising appearance forming a kind of staff about him. The conduct of a second party, whose route lay by Blackfriars, was entrusted to a committee of management, including perhaps a dozen men; while the third, which was to go by London Bridge, and through the main streets, in order that their numbers and their serious intentions might be the better known and appreciated by the citizens, were led by Simon Tappertit, assisted by a few subalterns selected from the Brotherhood of United Bulldogs, Dennis the hangman, Hugh, and some others. The word of command being given, each of these great bodies took the road assigned to it, and departed on its way in perfect order and profound silence. That which went through the city greatly exceeded the others in number, and was of such prodigious extent that when the rear began to move, the front was nearly 4 miles in advance, notwithstanding that the men marched 3 abreast, and followed very close upon each other. At the head of this party, in the place where Hugh, in the madness of his humour, had stationed him, and walking between that dangerous companion and the hangman, went Barnaby, as many a man among the thousands who looked on that day afterwards remembered well. Forgetful of all other things in the ecstasy of the moment, his face flushed and his eyes sparkling with delight, heedless of the weight of the great banner he carried, and mindful only of its flashing in the sun and rustling in the summer breeze, on he went, proud, happy, elated past all telling, the only light-hearted, undesigning creature in the whole assembly. "What do you think of this?" asked Hugh, as they passed through the crowded streets, and looked up at the windows which were thronged with spectators. "They've all turned out to see our flags and streamers, eh, Barnaby? Why, Barnaby's the greatest man of all the pack. His flags are the largest of the lot, the brightest too. There's nothing in the show like Barnaby. All eyes are turned on him." "Don't make that din, brother," growled the hangman, glancing with no very approving eyes at Barnaby as he spoke. "I hope he don't think there's nothing to be done but carrying that there piece of blue rag, like a boy at a breaking up. You're ready for action, I hope, eh? You, I mean," he added, nudging Barnaby roughly with his elbow. "What are you staring at? Why don't you speak?" Barnaby had been gazing at his flag, and looked vacantly from his questioner to Hugh. "He don't understand your way," said the latter. "Here, I'll explain to him. Barnaby, old boy, attend to me." "I'll attend," said Barnaby, looking anxiously round, "but I wish I could see her somewhere." "See who?" demanded Dennis in a gruff tone. "You aren't in love, I hope, brother. That aren't the sort of thing for us, you know. We mustn't have no love here." "She would be proud indeed to see me now, eh, Hugh?" said Barnaby. "Wouldn't it make her glad to see me at the head of this large show? She'd cry for joy, I know she would. Where can she be? She never sees me at my best, and what do I care to be gay and fine if she's not by?"
"Why, what palaver's this?" asked Mr Dennis, with supreme disdain. "We ain't got no sentimental members among us, I hope. 'Don't be uneasy, brother,' cried Hugh. 'He's only talking of his mother.' 'Of his what?' said Mr Dennis, with a strong oath. 'His mother. And have I combined myself with this here section, and turned out on this here memorable day to hear men talk about their mothers?' growled Mr Dennis, with extreme disgust. 'The notion of a man's sweetheart's bad enough, but a man's mother!' And here his disgust was so extreme that he spat upon the ground and could say no more. 'Barnaby's right,' cried Hugh with a grin, 'and I say it. Look'ee, bold lad, if she's not here to see, it's because I provided for her, and sent half a dozen gentlemen, every one of them with a blue flag, but not half as fine as yours, to take her in state to a grand house all hung round with gold and silver banners and everything else you please, where she'll wait till you come, and want for nothing.'
'Ay!' said Barnaby, his face beaming with delight. 'Have you indeed? That's a good hearing. That's fine. Oh, kind Hugh!'
'But nothing of what will come, bless you,' retorted Hugh, with a wink at Dennis, who regarded his new companion in arms with great astonishment.
'No, indeed!'
cried Barnaby. 'Nothing at all,' said Hugh. 'Money, cocked hats and feathers, red coats and gold lace, all the fine things there are, ever were, or will be, will belong to us, if we are true to that noble gentleman, the best man in the world, carry our flags for a few days, and keep 'em safe. That's all we've got to do.'
'Is that all?'
cried Barnaby with glistening eyes, as he clutched his pole the tighter.
'I warrant you I keep this one safe then. You have put it in good hands. You know me, Hugh. Nobody shall wrest this flag away.'
'Well said!' cried Hugh. 'Ha ha! Nobly said! That's the old stout Barnaby that I have climbed and leapt with many and many a day. I knew I was not mistaken in Barnaby. Don't you see, man,' he added in a whisper, as he slipped to the other side of Dennis,
'that the lad's a natural, and can be got to do anything, if you take him the right way? Letting alone the fun he is, he's worth a dozen men in earnest, as you'd find, if you tried to fall with him. Leave him to me. You shall soon see whether he's of use or not.'
Mr Dennis received these explanatory remarks with many nods and winks, and softened his behaviour towards Barnaby from that moment. Hugh, laying his finger on his nose, stepped back into his former place, and they proceeded in silence. It was between 2 and 3 o'clock in the afternoon, when the three great parties met at Westminster, and, uniting into one huge mass, raised a tremendous shout. This was not only done in token of their presence, but as a signal to those on whom the task devolved, that it was time to take possession of the lobbies of both houses, and of the various avenues of approach, and of the gallery stairs. To the last named place, Hugh and Dennis, still with their pupil between them, rushed straightway. Barnaby having given his flag into the hands of one of their own party, who kept them at the outer door, their followers pressed on behind. They were borne as on a great wave to the very doors of the gallery, whence it was impossible to retreat, even if they had been so inclined, by reason of the throng which choked up the passages. It is a familiar expression in describing a great crowd, that a person might have walked upon the people's heads. In this case it was actually done. For a boy who had by some means got among the concourse, and was in imminent danger of suffocation, climbed to the shoulders of a man beside him, and walked upon the people's hats and heads into the open street, traversing in his passage the whole length of 2 staircases and a long gallery. Nor was the swarm without less dense, for a basket which had been tossed into the crowd was jerked from head to head, and shoulder to shoulder, and went spinning and whirling on above them until it was lost to view, without ever once falling in among them, or coming near the ground. Through this vast throng, sprinkled doubtless here and there with honest zealots, but composed for the most part of the very scum and refuse of London, whose growth was fostered by bad criminal laws, bad prison regulations, and the worst conceivable police, such of the members of both houses of Parliament as had not